Have you ever wondered why vampires, creatures of the night, have such an alluring appeal to humans? This question has puzzled minds for centuries, as the fascination with these supernatural beings seems to transcend cultures, continents, and time periods. But why? Let's delve into the depths of this undying fascination. On one hand, vampires embody the thrill of the unknown. They are creatures of mystery operating in the shadows, unseen yet ever present. This element of the unknown triggers our innate curiosity and fear, two powerful emotions that can often seem inexplicably intertwined. On the other hand, vampires symbolize immortality, a concept as alluring as it is daunting. The idea of living forever, of witnessing the ebb and flow of time without being swept away by it, holds a certain appeal. After all, who hasn't fantasized about having all the time in the world to learn, to love, to experience? Then there's the allure of power. Vampires are often portrayed as beings of immense strength and influence. They command the night, bend others to their will, and are seemingly unbound by the laws of nature. Lastly, we cannot overlook the seductive charm often associated with vampires. They're not just powerful and immortal, they're also irresistibly enticing. This romanticized portrayal adds another layer to their appeal, making them not just creatures to fear, but also to desire. So there you have it. The fascination with vampires is a complex interplay of fear, curiosity, the allure of immortality, the desire for power, and the appeal of seduction. Each of these elements taps into deep-seated human desires and fears, making vampires not just creatures of myth and legend, but also mirrors reflecting our own hopes, dreams, and anxieties. The allure of vampires is a complex interplay of fear, fascination, and attraction. But where did it all begin? As we continue on this journey, we'll uncover the origins of vampire myths and explore their evolution over time. So stay tuned as we delve deeper into the shadows, into the world of the vampire. The vampire, as we know it, has a rich and varied history dating back to ancient times. In the foggy recesses of mankind's past, chilling tales and whispered fear surrounded creatures of the night, entities that bore a striking resemblance to the modern interpretation of vampires. These earliest vampire myths originated from diverse cultures across the globe, each with their own unique spin on the vampire's attributes and behaviors. In ancient Greece, for example, the vampire wasn't the suave, seductive creature we know today. Instead, it was a malicious spirit, or a reanimated corpse, known as the vrikolakas, a being that rose from the grave to terrorize the living, draining them of their life force. Often these creatures were said to be sinners or individuals who had led wicked lives, their punishment unfolding in the afterlife as they were doomed to roam the earth, never to find peace. Meanwhile, halfway across the world in Mesopotamia, we find tales of the Ekimu, a wrathful spirit that was not permitted to rest. These spirits were believed to be those of individuals who had died a violent death or had not received proper funerary rites. The Ekimu were said to roam the earth, causing disease and inspiring dread, draining the life from their victims, much like the lifeblood drained by the vampires of today's lore. In China, we find the Jiangshi, sometimes called hopping vampires. These creatures were said to drain the life essence, or qi, from their victims, leaving them physically weak and emotionally drained. And then there's the Hebrew legend of Lilith, the first woman before Eve, who was said to have become a night demon that preyed on young children and pregnant women. These early myths from different corners of the world share striking similarities, all featuring creatures that drain life or blood from the living, instilling fear into the hearts of those who dare to speak their names. And so, these ancient tales set the stage for the vampire's evolution, transforming it from a creature of myth and folklore into a creature of the night. These early myths set the stage for the vampire's evolution into a creature of the night. In the heart of Transylvania, a legend was born that would forever shape the image of the vampire. The legend of Dracula, a name that sends shivers down the spine, has its roots in the 15th century, with a man known as Vlad III, or Vlad the Impaler. Ruling Wallachia, a region in Romania, Vlad was infamous for his brutal and bloodthirsty reign. His favorite method of punishment was impalement, hence his chilling moniker. But was he a vampire? Well, that's the question that has intrigued many for centuries. As we navigate through the annals of history, we find that it was Irish author Bram Stoker who intertwined the legend of Vlad the Impaler with his iconic character Count Dracula in his 1897 novel Dracula. Although Stoker never claimed that his vampire was Vlad III, the parallels were hard to ignore. Stoker's Dracula was a charming, aristocratic figure with a dark secret. He was a vampire, a creature of the night who survived by drinking the blood of the living. This portrayal was a stark departure from earlier vampire myths, which often depicted vampires as mindless, reanimated corpses. Stoker's Dracula was intelligent, cunning, and incredibly powerful. But it wasn't just his character's personality that set the stage for the modern vampire. Stoker's Dracula also introduced many of the tropes we associate with vampires today: the aversion to sunlight, the inability to see their reflection, and the need for an invitation to enter a home are all elements that Stoker popularized. The novel was a phenomenal success, and Count Dracula quickly became a cultural icon. His popularity grew with each adaptation, from the silent films of the early 20th century to the lavish productions of today. Each iteration added something new to the legend, further cementing Dracula's status as the quintessential vampire. The legend of Dracula gave birth to the vampire's image that we are familiar with today. This enduring fascination with the Count and the vampire mythos he represents continues to captivate audiences worldwide, ensuring that the legend of Dracula will not be forgotten anytime soon. Despite their mythical origins, there are those who claim to have encountered these creatures in the flesh. The modern world, with its skepticism and reliance on hard evidence, still harbors tales of vampire sightings that are as chilling as they are intriguing. Let's delve into a few of these accounts. In 2002, a man in a small town in Romania reported a terrifying encounter with a vampire-like creature. He described an unnerving figure, pale and gaunt with piercing red eyes. The creature supposedly drained the life force from his livestock before vanishing into the night. Across the ocean in New Orleans, a city steeped in the supernatural, numerous claims of vampire sightings have been made. One such account comes from a woman who, while walking home late one night, encountered a group of individuals with elongated canines and a taste for human blood. Even in the bustling metropolis of London, there are tales of the Highgate vampire, a spectre that supposedly haunted Highgate Cemetery in the early 70s. The accounts were so compelling they sparked a media frenzy and a vampire hunt that attracted hundreds of people. So what explains these modern-day encounters with beings of myth? Many psychologists propose that these sightings are a manifestation of cultural beliefs and fears. The vampire, a symbol of death and the unknown, might represent our collective anxieties about mortality and the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. Others suggest these encounters could be a form of sleep paralysis, a condition where individuals, upon waking or falling asleep, experience temporary inability to move, often accompanied by hallucinations. These vivid dreams are sometimes interpreted as supernatural experiences. In a world dominated by science and reason, these tales of the unexplained keep the flame of mystery alive. They challenge our understanding of the world and push the boundaries of our imagination. While these encounters may be hard to believe, they show that the allure of vampires is as strong as ever. From the page to the screen, vampires have become a cultural phenomenon. Their presence in our collective consciousness is undeniable, and their portrayals in various forms of media have had a significant impact on our perceptions of these immortal beings. In literature, vampires have been depicted in countless ways. Bram Stoker's Dracula gave us the archetypal vampire, a creature of the night with a thirst for human blood. Anne Rice's The Vampire Chronicles introduced us to the charismatic Lestat, a vampire with a deep sense of humanity and a complex emotional life. These books and many others have added depth and nuance to the vampire mythology. Moving on to the silver screen, vampire films have ranged from the horrifying to the romantic. The early silent film Nosferatu gave us one of the first cinematic vampires, a grotesque and terrifying figure. In stark contrast, the Twilight Saga introduced a generation to the idea of the vampire as a romantic hero, sparking a global phenomenon and a fierce debate about the nature of vampires. Television too has embraced the vampire, with shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer exploring the idea of the vampire as both villain and hero. True Blood and The Vampire Diaries have delved into the complexities of vampire life, exploring themes of power, immortality, and the struggle to retain one's humanity. Through these various portrayals, the image of the vampire has evolved. They are no longer simply creatures of the night to be feared, but complex beings with their own struggles and desires. They represent power and immortality, yes, but also the eternal struggle between our darker impulses and our desire for connection and humanity. As we've seen, our cultural fascination with vampires is far from waning. Whether they're portrayed as terrifying monsters or misunderstood anti-heroes, vampires continue to captivate us, offering a mirror into our own human nature and our fascination with the unknown. Vampires, once feared creatures of the night, have now become symbols of power, immortality, and seduction. From ancient myths to modern sightings, the vampire has come a long way. Our fascination with these night creatures is undying, from the earliest tales that sparked terror to the legend of Dracula that has inspired countless stories. Even today, reported sightings keep the myth alive, as vampires continue to take on new forms in popular culture. Whether they are real or not, vampires continue to captivate our imagination and fascination. They are, after all, creatures of the night, and the night is full of mysteries.